8 times, 8 World Cups. Not once did they make it out of the group stage. And yet in qualifying, 4 wins, 13 points, top of the group. One of the most dominant European qualifying campaigns in years. The numbers look exactly like a team that belongs on the biggest stage. But the Tartan Army is nervous. And they have every reason to be. Because beating Belarus is not the same thing as standing up to Brazil. Scotland has only ever managed one of those. And in less than a week, 28 years of waiting finally ends. And the 9th chapter of this story begins. The real question is whether this one reads differently, or whether it ends the same way every other chapter has. If you want to find out, make sure you're subscribed. Let's get into it. Scotland is where international football was born. On the 30th of November 1872, England and Scotland met in Glasgow, the first international match in the history of the sport. Nobody alive remembers that afternoon, but something from it stayed inside Scottish football. A sense that this small nation had not just participated in football, but created it. It was not just a game, it was how a small country told the world it existed. For a while, that identity felt like it meant something at the highest level. From 1974 to 1990, Scotland reached 5 consecutive World Cups. They were a genuine presence in European football. The names alone carry weight. Dalglish, Souness, Strachan, Nicholas, Sturrock. Each of them brilliant in their own way. Each of them part of a generation that genuinely believed they could do something. But they never made it out of the group stage. Not once in those 5 tournaments. And then came the night in Cardiff, 1985, Scotland versus Wales, a World Cup qualifier. Jock Stein, the greatest manager this country had ever seen, collapsed on the touchline and died. The final whistle had barely blown. After that night, something fractured inside Scottish football. Not broken yet, but the crack was there, running deep. They made it to France in 1998, opening game of the tournament, Brazil. They conceded an own goal. They lost 2-1. They went home in the group stage. And then Scotland disappeared from the World Cup for 28 years. There were managers who tried. Gordon Strachan built genuine hope, and then it shattered in the Slovakia playoff. Every generation hit the same wall, the same pattern, the same exit point, a different set of faces. Then Steve Clarke arrived in 2019. Quiet, unsentimental, methodical, no grand speeches, no promises. He just built a structure, installed a belief that was earned rather than declared, and started winning. Euro 2020, Euro 2024, and now the 2026 World Cup. 3 consecutive major tournaments. For a nation of 5.5 million people, that is not a small thing. But the word transformation still feels too heavy, because the real questions, the ones that matter, have not been answered yet. When qualifying began, nobody expected it to look this clean. The group had Belarus, Greece, and Denmark. Not a group designed to terrify, but not an open door either. And Scotland handled it with something that started to feel like control. Belarus played their home games in Hungary, barred from their own country after their government support for the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Scotland beat them twice, 2-0 and 2-1. Then came Greece at Hampden, 3-1. And Scott McTominay was doing something new. He was doing it for Scotland the way he had started doing it for Napoli, arriving late into the box, finding the goal at the right moment. For the first time in a long time, there was a man in Scotland's midfield who could make the decisive play on the biggest night. The group finale against Denmark is the moment that will live in this qualifying campaign. Hampden Park was loud in the way it only gets when the whole country remembers simultaneously why it cares. Scotland won 4-2, and 28 years ended. The qualifying numbers were impressive. 6 games, finished first. That is not nothing. But here is what those numbers don't tell you. Belarus were playing in exile, half a team psychologically. Greece and Denmark were solid, but neither was a pressure test at the level Scotland is about to face. The combined FIFA ranking of those 3 opponents sits north of 100, and in the group stage of the 2026 World Cup, Scotland will meet Brazil, ranked at the very top, and Morocco, who reached the semi-finals in 2022. Beating Denmark 4-2 is a Hampden memory. It is not a preparation for what comes next. The question forming beneath the surface of all that celebration, that question did not disappear when the final whistle blew. So let's be honest about what we know. The qualifying test had a ceiling, and that ceiling was not very high. Measuring Scotland's readiness against Belarus and Greece is like watching someone swim in a pool and deciding they're ready for open water. The conditions are completely different, and the stakes don't compare. The first problem is in the detail of those qualifying results. Belarus were compromised from the start, dislocated from home, distracted by geopolitical circumstances that have nothing to do with football. Greece, despite being Euro 2004 champions, have been in structural decline since 2014. And even in that state, Scotland lost to them away from home 3-2. That single result is a small note in the qualifying story, but it should not be ignored. Because at a World Cup, every match carries away day pressure. The crowd will not be yours, the atmosphere will not be gentle, and if the score turns against you, you need to hold your shape and find a way back. Scotland's history against that specific kind of pressure is not encouraging. Look at the pattern. Euro 2024, opening match, Germany, 5-1. Euro 2020, against Croatia, 3-1. These were not bad days in isolation, they were the same kind of bad day, arriving at the same moment in the tournament for the same reasons. The second problem is the midfield. Billy Gilmour, the most creative presence in Scotland's engine room, the player built for controlling tempo and constructing play, picked up an injury in May against Curaçao and will miss the tournament. Tyler Fletcher has come in. He plays for Manchester United, but his minutes are limited and his big tournament experience is unclear. This is not just the loss of a player, it is the loss of the one man who could make Scotland look like a possession team when they needed to be one. And up front, Che Adams carries the attack almost alone. He is not a player who unlocks games with individual brilliance, but he holds the line, he works the channels, and the system functions around him. If Adams is unavailable or subdued, there is no obvious answer behind him. The third problem is in goal. Craig Gordon is 43 years old. He is a hero of this club and this country. A man who has been through more than most footballers will ever face. But asking a 43-year-old goalkeeper to contain Vinicius Jr. is a question that deserves a real answer. Whether Gordon is still playing because Clark fully trusts him or because there simply isn't a credible alternative, those are two very different situations, and only one of them is reassuring. To be fair, Clark has built something that should not be casually dismissed. 3 consecutive major tournaments from a country this size represents genuine structural progress. This squad has a collective identity. They know each other. They trust each other. Robertson's leadership is not performative. These players are not stepping onto that stage against Brazil and Morocco without understanding what the moment costs. But there is a distance between being prepared and being proven, and Scotland have not yet closed it. The Tartan Army knows this. On social media, the same phrase keeps appearing. Beating Belarus and Greece isn't the test hasn't arrived yet. That is uncomfortable to read. It is also accurate, which is exactly what makes this group both an opportunity and a threat. Tell us in the comments, was the qualifying campaign a genuine test of this team, or has the real wall not arrived yet? The question of who Scotland actually are at a major tournament runs deeper than squad depth or goalkeeper age. They are, on paper, underdogs. A country of 5.5 million, a domestic league shaped by Premier League gravity. Most of the squad earns their football in England, which is both an advantage in terms of quality exposure and a strange kind of paradox. Scotland's best players are formed by another country's elite competition. But 28 years of absence has distorted the underdog identity into something heavier. Scotland no longer feel like a team trying to simply reach the stage. They feel like a team that has been told they need to do something on it. The narrative has shifted. Just being there isn't enough anymore. And that shift is now in direct conflict with the kind of football this squad is actually built to play. Scotland's natural game is compact, combative, built on organisation and counter-attack. It is not dominant possession football. The squad does not have the depth for it. And yet the expectation, from media and supporters alike, has started pulling in a different direction. This time, we're a real force. That pressure to play bigger than the identity allows is historically where Scotland have come undone. This is not a new story for them. In 1978, Scotland manager Ali MacLeod flew to the World Cup in Argentina saying he expected to win it. He genuinely believed it. The supporters saw the team off at the airport. There were crowds, there was noise. And then Scotland lost 3-1 to Peru, drew 1-1 with Iran and beat only Holland, who finished second in the group. The collapse was not purely about player quality, it was about expectation consuming reality. They tried to be something they were not. Euro 2024 felt like a smaller version of the same thing. Scotland arrived talking about being ready. They lost 5-1 to Germany in the opening game. The tournament was functionally over before the first night ended. And now 2026, the same tension, a different generation carrying it. Andrew Robertson is 32 years old. He has won the Premier League, the Champions League, the Domestic Cup. He has done things at Liverpool that belong on the long list of the sport's serious achievements. But he has never led Scotland through a major tournament group stage. That contradiction lives in him quietly, and this summer it will be louder than it has ever been. McTominay has grown into something real at Napoli this season. But whether he can absorb the physical and technical pressure of Brazil's midfield, that question has never been posed to him at this level. He has never had to answer it. The most sensible path forward may be the simplest one. Go back to the identity that actually exists. Combative underdogs. Organized, hard to break, dangerous on the counter. That version of Scotland can steal a point from Brazil. That version can beat Morocco. But it requires setting aside the pressure to perform as something larger than they are. If they don't, if the "we have to prove something" weight takes over, even Haiti becomes a dangerous afternoon. Scotland are in Group C, 3 matches, each one carrying a different kind of risk. The first game is on June 14th against Haiti in Foxborough. It is the match that looks the most straightforward on paper, which is exactly what makes it the most psychologically loaded. 8 World Cups, 0 round of 16 appearances. The accumulated weight of that record will be in the stadium, whether anyone mentions it or not. Haiti are small on the rankings, but they are physical, they are organized, and if the score is still 0-0 in the second half and the anxiety starts building in the stands, Scotland have been here before. The silence gets heavier every minute, and then the déjà vu arrives. For this squad, the first match has always functioned as a verdict. Their opening games at major tournaments have consistently set the trajectory for everything that follows. Haiti is not the glamour game. Haiti is the psychological lock. On June 19th, also in Foxborough, they face Morocco. This is the match that does not get enough attention. Morocco in 2022 did not just reach the semi-finals. They did it by beating Belgium in the group stage, then Spain in the round of 16, then Portugal in the quarter-finals. Most of that core squad is still together. They are physically imposing, tactically disciplined, and built to neutralize exactly the kind of counter-attacking football Scotland depends on. If you draw up the profile of the opponent most likely to cause Scotland structural problems, Morocco fits almost perfectly. Less talked about than Brazil, potentially more dangerous. The final group game is on June 24th at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami against Brazil. By then, Scotland's fate may already be decided. But if they arrive needing a result, they will need to go up against Brazil, the same opponent who knocked them out of the group stage in 1998. 28 years later, same opponent, different players, same question. The window for this generation is narrowing. Robertson is 32. McTominay's current form is close to its peak, but these peaks do not last. Clark has assembled this group at the right moment. The structure is in place, but assembled at the right moment is not the same as ready to deliver at the right moment. Best case, 3 points against Haiti, 1 against Morocco, and Scotland stay competitive against Brazil long enough that it matters. Worst case, a slow start against Haiti, a result that poisons the atmosphere, and Scotland spending the rest of the group stage trying to recover something that slipped away in the first 45 minutes. Whether this team knows exactly what it is and plays that way will determine everything. In 1872, in Glasgow, the first international football match was played, Scotland against England. Nobody would have imagined it was the beginning of something that would eventually involve the whole world. 154 years have passed since that afternoon. Scotland have been to 8 World Cups. They have never made it out of the group stage. Now it is 9. Andrew Robertson will walk out in Foxborough with the captain's armband. The best players of this generation will be beside him. 28 years of waiting is about to meet its answer, one way or another. Either Scotland make it through a group stage for the first time in their history, and something in this country's relationship with football quietly shifts, or the 9th chapter ends the same way the last 8 did, and another generation adds its name to the same unfinished sentence. Nobody knows yet which version of this story gets written this summer. That is why the Tartan Army still shows up.
Yeah, I'll make know your town was humming.